Hi, everybody. My name is Paula Wilson. I'm the Member Services Manager at Equity Art. I'm really excited to welcome you to the Collegiate Access for Young Musicians series, co-presented by Equity Art and El Sistema USA. So this virtual college fair and session on finding the best fit, it's the first of a series of 6 virtual college prep sessions to be presented throughout the school year. You can learn more and register for the remaining sessions at equityarc.org/events. So tonight we're going to hear from Zach Schwartz, an admissions extraordinary who serves as the Director of Admissions at Boston University School of Music. We're going to hear about how to identify the school that is right for you. Then we'll hear from 21 colleges and conservatories about what makes their school unique. And you should have received a packet in your confirmation with more details. We're going to close this session with breakout rooms where you can connect with admissions professionals about their unique programs. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Zach Schwartz.
Great. Thank you, Paula. Hi, everybody. I appreciate admissions extraordinaire is quite a lot to live up to, but I appreciate that. Hi, good evening, everybody. Good afternoon. So I'll kind of just give a very brief introduction of myself, and I'll try and stretch like maybe a minute or two for more people to arrive before we dive in. So as Paula very graciously introduced me, so my name is Zach Schwartz. I'm actually coming to you this evening as kind of an independent member of Equity Arc and sort of an independent guide, consultant, if you will, on music admissions and guiding young people to their best fit. I certainly have what I believe is a pretty darn cool day job. I am the Director of Admissions of the Boston University School of Music, and which is also where I graduated from. I'm a member of Equity Arc, and also I'm one of the members of the Board of Directors of the National Music Admissions Roundtable, which is a fantastic organization which unites hundreds of professionals like myself and a couple colleagues in this room and the institutions we represent to help folks find their best fit in schools. The purpose of this session is really to just give you something tangible that you can take away this afternoon or this evening, so that for students, when you are starting to think about, okay, like where do I apply? Like, what is important to me? I maybe met a teacher at a particular school, but like what else? Hopefully this will give you something that you can work with, some structure. If there are parents who have joined, or guidance counselors or teachers, hopefully this can be a tool not only that you can use to help guide the young people that you work with or young people in your families, but it also could prove very beneficial for a bit of reflection on your own college journey and how you got here. So I'd like to, hopefully most people, it seems, have joined. We've got a pretty good cohort right now, 25 folks. So I'm going to screen share, and I'm going to give a very, very short presentation just about like kind of how to think about this. And then we're going to reserve about...
Please, would you like an e-receipt?
I'd like an e-receipt. And then we're going to reserve about 15 to 20 minutes for a session activity together. So we've sort of fit this whole thing into a nice half-hour package, and hopefully it'll give you something to think about. So I am going to screen share here. Wonderful. And at any time, if you can't see something, please just holler. Thank you. Okay, so the name of this session, and if some of you have either met me at a college fair or in some way have either emailed with me or something, you may have heard me use this term. So I came up with this phrase that I call average boring Tuesday. And this is sort of a framework that I use to encourage folks to think about their next steps. So what we're going to sort of be exploring is sort of what does your average boring Tuesday look like when you are in college, okay? So I like to think of this as, when I say average boring Tuesday, rather than your most exciting day of college. So, you think big performances or sports rallies or graduation or all these events, things that things that you think of like, oh, this is like the best thing ever, right? I want you to actually think about your least exciting day of college, okay? The most average or boring, and I just arbitrarily picked Tuesday, sort of the most average or boring day of college, okay? So why? Why, like, Zach, why are you telling me to think about something that's like not as flashy and interesting? Because in the United States, in general, we tend to be a very work and career-oriented culture. And what I find sometimes in my work and both in my own history as a musician who went to music school is I think we tend to look at college sometimes, particularly in the arts, as a means to an end. This is like, I'm going to go to music school so that I can blank, fill in the blank, be a performing violinist or be a music teacher or an arts administrator or what have you. And it might be a little bit kind of crunchy of me to say, but I like for folks to kind of think about rather than thinking 5, 10, 20 years in the future, in order to get to that career, you have to go through the 4 years of undergraduate study or master's study. And I guess I'm a personal believer in that you should try to enjoy all parts of your journey, not only where it leads to. So, what I like to encourage folks to think about when it comes to next steps in their education is to think about what those in between years look like. Because I really believe that when you are gaining a large set of skills and colleagues and you're moving somewhere for school, you want to enjoy those years too. You don't want to just discount those in pursuit of your career. Okay, so that's what we're going to be focusing on today. And what I'm going to lead you on a brief activity to do is, so for students in this room, or for folks who've already gone to college, I'd like you to think back. So when you've gone through a college application process, maybe had an audition, you've gotten accepted somewhere, the financial aid worked out, et cetera, et cetera. All right, you're a freshman on campus or a first year graduate student on campus. When you wake up on campus, what does that setting look like? I don't mean like what is the best concert you're going to have of the year. I mean, is it cold? Is it hot? Is it by the coast? What's it like? So that's what we're going to be investigating. And after this session, Paula is going to very graciously send along actually my worksheet that I'm about to show you so that you can fill it out or print it or tear it up or whatever you'd like to do after this session as well. So let's dive in. I like to look at 8 different parameters when I'm encouraging folks, when I'm counseling folks on this process. So I encourage folks to think about, again, when we're thinking about our most boring day of college, what is the size of school that we're looking at? Are we talking something that is the entire school is less than 500 students? Are we talking mid-size? Are we talking a huge university? For example, the one that I work at, BU, is about 34,000 people. But then understanding that within a university, you can have a much smaller music program or department. So again, it's something to consider. Do you want a small department within a huge school, or do you want the overall size of the school to be a particular size. The next one is location. So it's pretty self-explanatory. So, do you want to be on the East Coast? Do you want to be near family? Do you want to be somewhere totally new? Um, my own personal experience is when I went to college. So I grew up in Greater Boston, and I went to BU, which is only 12 miles away from where I grew up. And actually, my whole family went to BU. My parents met at BU. So it's, for me, that was very comfortable, a very comfortable place to go. And I wanted to be able to go home on weekends. But then when I went to graduate school, which is at the Royal College of Music in London, I moved an ocean away, right? And that was a brand new experience for me to be an international student, right? So location, setting, which obviously is very closely linked to location, but we think about, do you want to be in a dense city? Do you want to be in a sort of, you think like New York, LA, a college town? So for example, Ann Arbor, Michigan is kind of the one that comes to my mind of being kind of this quintessential college town built around University of Michigan. Or do you want something even more rural, cornfields? Climate is certainly something important. The example that I always sort of give is I've had applicants who I've admitted to BU who also have been admitted to, say, Frost School of Music at University of Miami. And all things being equal, they're like, I need to decide between snow or palm trees. And so that's an important consideration. What do you want the climate to be like? Do you enjoy autumn foliage? Community. So obviously there's so many different ways to find community, and you can find pockets of community at any school, and yes, but when you're sort of looking at a first pass, are there things that are important to you? So I always mention, for example, is a religious affiliated school important to you? An example, because I live next door to it, is Boston College, for example. Boston College is a Jesuit institution. Is it important for you to have a lot of strongly identified first generation programming and identity at your school? So first gen meaning either are you the child of immigrants, or are you the first person in your family to go to college? What does that identity look like for you? And then other identities, for example, if you are interested in attending an HBCU, a historically Black college or university, that's a very important marker of identity for those schools and a very important way of building community. And other things as well, such as, schools that might be very outwardly and proudly LGBTQ plus friendly. So again, these are all factors to consider whether or not they're important to you. Program of study, of course, right? Like you want to go somewhere that has the program that you want to study. So whether that is a Bachelor of Music, a Bachelor of Arts, a dual degree, or whether you're like, yeah, I kind of want to study engineering, but still be involved in all campus ensembles. Perfect. Not all schools have graduate programs either. So if you're a prospective grad student, that's important in your search. Extracurriculars. So this is something that helps round out your daily experience. Are you an athlete? Do you want to participate in Greek life, a fraternity or sorority, other clubs, activism, right? We've seen so much. Colleges have always been a hotbed of activism. And then the final one, before we kind of move on to our shared activity, is financial. And this is something that's very important for families to talk about together. So, we've all heard about the difference between need-based aid, which relates to your FAFSA and your CSS profile, versus merit aid. And I think a thing that's very important is understanding, you're going to be applying to many different schools that are going to assess your financial aid differently. And it's important to have a sense before you get those offers, what is comfortable and reasonable for you and your family. It might be, I really need almost all of my tuition covered in order to make this work. Or, I have some savings, my parents are able to contribute, or another family member. And again, so this is a conversation. Money can often be a bit of a taboo subject, but it's important to talk about it. So this is the preview of the worksheet that Paula is going to send to you. So I've basically done it as a grid. And again, you'll be able to print this out and use it as you wish. So now, to kind of get to do all of this together for the next 15, 20 minutes or so, I'd like for Paula to share in the chat. There's this great website that I use called Mentimeter. And this, I'm going to stop sharing. And whoa, there's a lot of people here. That's great. And Mentimeter is a fantastic website where basically I'm going to have up the slides and each of those categories.
I just pulled up
And we're going to be able to respond to all of those together. And what I hope you will start to see, even as a group here together for the next 20 minutes, is that different things matter to different people. And also you will hopefully begin to see this is the reason why there are hundreds and hundreds of institutions of higher education in this country for music alone. And this is the reason why my colleagues and I who are in the field, why we love meeting with students and parents, because we know that every school is a different fit for lots of people. So it looks like Paula put that link in the chat. So you can do it either on your phone or on your computer. So we'll get started. Paula, can you see the presentation view? Looks good? Great. Okay. So here's our average boring Tuesday brainstorm activity. So what I would like, if I can advance the slide. So talk to me a little bit about a size of school that would be important to you. I'd like to hear from a couple of folks. What is a size of institution that would be important to you or parents? What was something that was important to you in your college journey? I just want to see, a couple of different responses and see how folks engage with this. Small, medium, great. We'll sort of give 2 or 3 minutes on each of these. Over 10,000, medium, large. 3,000 to 5,000, medium to medium large, right? So I think, as you can tell, I'd like a medium-sized school, maybe from 5,000 to 15,000, medium large to large. You can tell in all these responses, this is the reason why there's so many different types of school. Or a small music school within a larger university. That's great. Awesome. Closer connections with faculty, definitely. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. So location of school. What are some things that are important to you? Do you think about, and it can be very sort of superficial. You can say like, I hate the East Coast, or I love New York, or something. When you're thinking of location, what stands out to you in your mind as something that is important for your next 4 years? Want to be somewhere new, but I don't want to move across the country. Yep. Somewhere with distinct seasons. Great. Somewhere brand new to me. Prefer to be in Texas, near family. East Coast, not urban. Want to go somewhere that has a large classical music scene. Hear from a middle school daughter, hopefully close to home. Absolutely. And again, this is why I think this activity is so good for families to do together. Love to study in Boston, BU, go BU. Somewhere in big cities, prefer a school that's new but not too far. This is great, folks. I really appreciate all these responses. Great. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next one, right? Really appreciate how quickly people are answering. So setting. So again, when we talk about setting, we mean, dense city, college town. I sort of joke like cornfields, what does that look like to you? Some of you already mentioned it a bit in location. This will probably be one of the quicker slides. College town or suburban, very dense city. Yep, college town, small town. I will say, as you're typing something, when I went on my sort of college journey, Boston was kind of a medium-sized city where I felt, obviously being from there, but I also just felt that there was a realistic number of people. For me, but then I wanted to feel just kind of fully engrossed in millions of people when I went for my graduate studies. So again, personal preference. I want to be in a state that has nature a couple of hours away, city, not necessarily a super dense city, a medium city, city with suburban areas. Great. Okay, next one. Climate. So someone had already mentioned seasons, but what else? What are your opinions? Does anybody want like, you know, only hot weather? That's it. I only own shorts and t-shirts. Or is someone say I cannot stand sweating, you know? So what would you all say? Despise the heat. So somewhere cold is great for me. Want all four seasons so I don't get bored of them. Great. I will say I don't know if anyone else is from, well, I see Claire Peck is in here, but in New England, but Boston summers get pretty hot too. So a more temperate climate with four seasons, all four seasons. I'd love to experience snowy days because I live in the desert. Being from Texas, I'm so ready for somewhere colder. I hate winter, so somewhere hot. See, isn't this amazing? Like how people feel totally different about a similar prompt. I think this is wonderful. I get cold in 65-degree weather. I need a southern climate. Absolutely. As I talk about that story about a student who I had admitted to BU, and it came down to between Boston and Miami, and it was like they just never wanted to buy a coat. So it's fine. That's why we have all these schools. Great. Okay. So next one, community. What are some ideas of community that are important to you? So we mentioned, um, potential religious affiliation, first gen programming and support. Um, is an HBCU important to you, LGBTQ friendly, other things that I may not have thought of also. Lots of queer people, great. Hispanic community, great. LGBTQ friendly, great. Any good diversity doesn't have to be an HBCU. Definitely. Community that appreciates classical music. First gen support, LGBTQ, Hispanic community, a good amount of diversity, first gen programming and support. Great, a wide variety of different people, a vibrant art scene. This is great. I really appreciate that there are some things that are really coming to you all quickly about this. So this means that these are very important things in the front of your mind. And again, this is something for students and parents in this session. This is something to keep thinking through. And what does that community look like to you on campus, and how frequently are you engaged with it? Open-mindedness and diversity, queer friendly. It's wonderful. Okay, so we'll move on. Program of study. Okay, so what are some things that you would like to have, especially in terms of the level of music study? What do folks want? A Bachelor of Music program, BM, dual degree? Great. So this will certainly influence the schools that you are applying to. Bachelor of Music, double major opportunities. Great. Sometimes there's a difference between double majors and dual degrees also, so that's something to clarify with an individual school. Um, I don't know if did I put it on here? Also, like, you can always do minors and like a music minor or an academic minor also. Need a school that has an engineering department as well as music, maybe double major. And I think something that you'll be pleasantly surprised to whoever wrote about engineering and music, more and more schools are able to accommodate sort of different areas of study for one student. So go for it. That sounds great. Music education would allow you to continue with both voice and oboe. Great. Options for woodwind doubling. As a saxophonist, I dig it. That's great. Graduate programs at least, like an MM. Awesome. I see stuff, dual degree in business. That's fantastic. Okay, we're gonna move on. What about extras, extracurriculars? What's important to you? Do you want certain clubs? Do you want um, sororities, fraternities? Those can be a great way to build community as well. Um, you know, a school newspaper, for example, that you could be quite involved in. A swimming team, great. And something with athletics also is to think about, you know, schools are in different divisions and of the NCAA. And so you think about, do you want a school where you can be D1 or actually an example I think of is my saxophone teacher in undergrad, who's now a dear colleague of mine at BU. She chose where she went to college originally because it allowed her both to play hockey at a professional level and study saxophone. So that's something to think about. Creative Writing Club, Recreation Center, Art Club, Poetry Slams. Yeah, that's great. Organized approach and support helping students find their tribe. Plant Club, yes, Plant Club. Okay, and then just to touch on, oh great, band and orchestra. And so financial, so kind of our last category, if folks maybe want to throw a few responses in here, you know, what are you thinking about when I say like financial aid, like what are things that are coming across your mind? Crucial. Necessary, crucial. Very important. And this definitely can hurt. I appreciate that too. Something that I will say this again. This is the reason why we have so many institutions and so many folks to help guide you through this process because, you know, you should be applying to many different schools, whether you are at the undergraduate or graduate level, because you want options open to you. Even if you fall absolutely in love with, you know, I see Belmari. So like if you fall in love with Carnegie Mellon, you know, it's important that you are applying to a bunch of different schools so that when you have those options, that those options are yours to be able to make the best decision. I don't want to pay at all for college. I will also look for outside scholarships as well as those provided by the school. Any college should be free or not very much in tuition. Kind of crucial. Divorced parents, lots of arguments over child support. Very significant. Okay, so folks can see, you know, this is certainly in this country at this time. This is an important consideration for most people. So again, the other thing that I will always recommend is reach out to admissions offices, financial aid counselors, ask questions. If you are confused about a piece of information, get the answers. Okay, so to wrap up the last 2 minutes, I'm not normally this good at time. This is really great. I want to thank all of you for joining me on this brief session, and thanks so much to Paula and to Equity Arc for having me present. You know, this is work that I and my colleagues at other institutions believe in wholeheartedly. You know, this is really what makes us tick is helping folks to navigate. I always describe it as the intersection between two confusing industries. It's the intersection between the arts, which is so vast, and higher education, which is so vast, and then we sit in the middle of it. And our job is to help you um, to be able to manage this process. So thanks for having me. I guess if there's any questions with 45 seconds left, please. But otherwise, thank you very much, Paula. Thank you to everybody who attended.